All right. Okay, so everybody, I'd like to welcome Matt Armstrong to the call. Matt is a good friend of mine. We've known each other for quite a few years, although you live in Spain, don't you, Matt? How you doing?
Great, Ben. How you doing? Great to see you.
All right. Now, I just want to quickly get your opinion. If somebody wants to lose fat, somebody like myself, now I'm not really overweight, but if somebody is carrying a lot of weight and they want to lose fat, do you think a juice fast is a good, effective, healthy way of achieving that?
Absolutely, it's one of many different ways that you can do it, and it is very fast and very effective, and very healthy. It's such a gift you can give to your body. Is going on a juice fast or a juice feast is what I like to do, and that's definitely where I've noticed some very fast fat loss is doing a juice feast, where taking in at least 4 liters of juice per day and so you're still getting in a good number of calories where you can go about your normal day-to-day business. I wouldn't really recommend doing intense workouts on that, but for sure it's going to give your body a good rest, and it's also going to burn up quite a bit of fat as well.
Right. You said 4 liters. Did I hear you correctly?
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah. If you're drinking 4 liters, then you're getting a good amount of calories as well. So it's maybe not like the optimal amount, because what I found when doing any like long-term juice feasting was I didn't think that I would have been fared too well on a heavy gym workout or going for a run or anything, but I was still able to carry on with day-to-day activities.
Right. Now, I know you've been doing juice fasts and cleanses and all sorts of stuff for ages. So tell us a little bit about your history and what it is you do and some of the juice fasts that you've done in the past.
I suppose many years ago, maybe 10 plus years ago, I started doing juice cleansing and fasting and things like that. I followed the Dr. Robert Young approach. I got into the alkalizing sort of diet, and I started going on 5 and 7 day juice cleanses, mainly green juice cleanses. Found a lot of benefit from that, both health, clearing up allergies, at the same time, getting more tone to my body and things like that. I've done some water fasts as well, which are just more or less on like a healing sort of basis. That's what we're looking for with the water fast. And then, throughout the years, I got more into the raw food diet. And although raw food diet, there's many diets within the raw food world or movement, and I started learning more about that. And then that got me. I went into juice feasting, and then instead of juice fasting, I thought, okay, well, let's do juice feasting, where I'm just flooding my body with many nutrients as possible, and then I'm able to do like a long juice feast rather than doing it for maybe 10 days or 14 days. I'm able to do one for 50 days or 100 days, which the longest one I did, and still carry on with day-to-day normal activities. As I went through that for almost 4 months or something.
Right.
So yeah, it's been a process, and then I found eating like low fat raw vegan seemed to be the best I found over the years as well.
Right. Now, something I want to ask you. What's your view on protein and meat? Do you eat meat? Is it necessary? What's your views on that?
I don't eat meat. Haven't touched a bit of meat in 10 years, or 9 years, 9.5 years, something like that. So it's obviously completely unnecessary for me to eat it. I thrive, more and more each and every day. Going on 37 this year, and I'm healthier, fitter, stronger than I was when I was in my mid 20s. And even back then, I had my attention on being fit, healthy, and strong. So, cutting out the meat and cutting out the dairy and cutting out all the animal products, the eggs included, over the years, I became healthier and fitter and stronger. My joints became more supple and stronger. Before, I used to get different joint pains from working out and things like that, and all that went away.
Hmm.
So for me, it's longevity. If you want longevity as an athlete, then you really got to make the diet very, very clean, and cutting out the animal products for me was definitely a huge factor in that, and I feel so much better from doing it.
Right. Is there a trade-off with muscle strength and muscle size if you're not going to be eating animal protein? Do you have to trade off strength in order to get the longer longevity?
I don't think strength. No. I think it can be a misconception because a lot of people can get very, very big eating meat. But is it real muscle, or is it just the muscles being inflamed? You get like inflammation and water retention from eating those high animal protein sort of diets. So the muscles become very, very inflamed.
Kind
So
of
I find,
inflated. Is that what you mean? Kind of
yes,
bigger, but not
yes,
necessarily stronger. Is that what you mean?
yeah, not necessarily stronger, no. So at my strongest for being pound for pound, my strongest has been when I was eating raw vegan for quite a long time. That's when I've been at my strongest pound for pound.
Really?
Yeah. Like years ago, I got myself very, very big, and I was weighed over 200 pounds, over 15 stone, and I was really strong. But pound for pound, I wasn't as strong as I have been in the past like year or so.
Right. Oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Listen, we're trying to squeeze as much in as we can within 10 minutes because there's loads of interviews to get through. So I want to ask you about your website. Your website is outstandinghealthnow.com. Now, you've got
hmm
loads of interviews on there that you've done with a wide variety of health experts. So tell
Yeah.
us what it is you offer. What can people get from your website?
Well, you get a very broad perspective on the various people who eat a plant-based diet mainly, who talk about their experiences with it and their students' experiences and what they've learned throughout the years. So it's a more a broad perspective. It's not just following one way. So that's one of the things is you can go to one place and get all these experts and who I've researched to make sure that they are bona fide in who they are and their credentials, etc. So you're not just searching online and finding someone and following their advice and that it not being good stuff. So everyone is giving good, sound knowledge and advice on it, but they do differ, and that's a really interesting thing. They're not all saying the same thing, but they're still all getting results with either their clients or their patients, if they're doctors or whatever. They're all getting good results, but sometimes there's a contradiction in what they're saying. And this, I know this interview is quite short that we're doing, so there's maybe one point that I want to get across in it, is that not everyone says the same thing, and this can be confusing for a lot of people. Going into the health field, going into the alternative health field, that they're going, well, this doctor's saying this, and this other doctor's saying this, and this nutritionist is saying this, and this naturopath is saying this, and it's contradictory. And yes, it is, but they're still all getting results. Why is that? And there's just many different levels. To give you one example, which confused me for a while until I got my head around it, was I used to believe that to eat fruit, especially too much fruit, was bad. I followed the Dr. Robert Young approach to the alkaline diet and everything, and so that was my view on that. I thought, well, this guy knows his stuff. Obviously, he must be the authority on this. So I followed his stuff, cutting out all types of sugars and things like that. And then my diet would have been a high fat diet, because if you're not eating things like carbohydrates that convert to sugar, what are you eating? You're eating fats. So yes, that worked fine. But then I saw all these other people who were eating high fruit diets, and they were thriving on them. They were eating high carbohydrate diets, low fat diets, high sugar diets, and they were thriving and breaking records in races and things like that, becoming world-class athletes on them. So then I was thinking, okay, well, obviously there's some contradiction here. What is it? Why are these people thriving on fruit and then other people aren't? And so this is one aspect. It comes down to food combining. It's how you combine the food. And if you're eating fat, let's say, and then you're eating like fruit on top of it, it's not going to combine well in the system. It's like having a motorway and sending wanting the flow on that motorway to work well, and sending a few articulated lorries down and then sending Ferraris behind it. Articulated lorries is like fat, Ferraris is like fruit,
Right.
or sugars. Sugars move through the bloodstream very, very fast. If you're eating fat before you're eating your sugary fruits, then those sugary fruits are going to get blocked in its way. It's going to cause a traffic jam in the bloodstream. So to mix the sugars and the fats together creates disharmony in the body. They don't combine well in the digestive system because fruit will move through the body very, very fast, maybe 3 hours before it gets digested. Where if you're eating fatty foods, even if it's raw fatty foods, even if it's the good fat, you're eating avocados, nuts and things, that's still taking a long time to process through the digestive system, and it's moving through the bloodstream much, much slower. So a lot of it comes down to the ratios in which we eat them, and also how fast we eat them as well, or how in what if we eat the fats first or the fruits first. So I'll make sure that I'll eat fruit all day, and then if I eat any fat, it'll be in the evening time as my last meal, which gives it 12 hours to go through my system before the next day, before I eat again in the morning. So it takes maybe the fats 12 hours to go through the bloodstream, where it might take the fruit sugars 3 hours.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying
Yeah,
there?
I do get what you're saying. So the combining is important, understanding how the things are digested and what order
Yeah.
to eat them and how fast
Yeah,
they're going to be digested.
exactly.
Right. Got
Exactly.
it.
The combining and the ratios as well. So my preference right now is high carbohydrate, low fat, and that's what I find whenever I ate whenever I started eating like that, whenever I took a massive intake of fruit into my diet, eating a lot of fruit, eating very low fat, maybe 10% fat, 80% carbohydrate, 10% protein. That's when I noticed, and I know what we're talking about here is fat loss. That's when I noticed I got ripped to the bone. I got shredded, like Bruce Lee, like more like I'd ever done before in anything that I'd done before.
Wow.
So if we can get one thing across now, that's the thing I'd like to get across.
Oh wow, that's a very
Yeah.
interesting little piece. I wasn't expecting that. So yeah, that's really fascinating. So I'm really sorry we're so pressed for time. If people want to get in touch with you, what's the best thing? They can come to your website. Can they find out more about what you just said on your website?
Yeah, absolutely. There's different people being interviewed on there talking about things like that as well. Because that's who I've gone to. Different people having different ideas, and then also on my YouTube channel. The YouTube is where I'm probably most active now in the health field. I'm involved in different fields and different movements, and the health movement. My YouTube channel is quite active. So
Okay.
that's youtube.com/be your potential.
And one more thing I want to mention just before we wrap up that I thought was really cool. You and Victoria did a long kind of cleanse, fast, juice thing
Yeah.
right before you conceived your baby. Did you do that on purpose so that you were both cleansed, ready to produce a child? Was that intentional?
That was one of the reasons for sure. And in this day and age when there is so much infertility, that's an amazing way to become fertile, is to cleanse the body, clean it out, go on a juice cleanse, eat a raw food, plant-based diet. That is one way for especially women to increase their fertility and chances of getting pregnant.
Very interesting. Matt,
Yeah.
thank you so much. I'd love to come back another time and do a proper long, so we really get a chance to speak. But just to summarize, just to remind us that the ratio of carbohydrates and fats and the order that you ate them in order to become shredded and to lose, just remind us one more time before we finish.
Okay. Yeah, a ratio of eating 80% carbohydrates, 10% fats, 10% proteins, and eating the carbohydrates during the daytime, morning, afternoon, and then any fats that we're going to eat, just say those fats are in the form of avocados, nuts, seeds, whatever, to eat them in the evening, last thing. So then overnight, they're getting processed, rather than if you're eating the fruit on top of the fats, it's not good.
Wow, crystal clear. And you're saying the fruits are carbohydrates, just to be clear. That's what you mean,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Right.
yeah. When I'm talking about carbohydrates, I'm talking about
Right.
fruits, as in sugary fruits. Obviously, avocado is a fruit as well, but it's a high-fat fruit. But most fruits are sugary sort of fruits, which are mainly carbohydrates.
Matt, that is really cool. I'm so glad you taught us that because that's something I didn't know. I hope that's going to be useful for our listeners if they're trying to lose fat. So thanks so much for your time. We'll come back another time and speak and do a full thing. But it was great to speak to you today, so thank you.
You're very welcome, Ben. If one thing I can say to you as well is been amazed at your own personal physical transformation over the past 6 months. You've made tremendous gains, and hats off to you, because not many people can do that in 6 months, or 6 years maybe it takes many people, and they still don't get to what you've done in 6 months. So well done on that.
Oh, well, thanks a lot. Yeah, I hope there's going to be more gains to come as yet. So, so I'll speak to you soon. Thanks a lot, Matt.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Ben. Thanks, everybody.